the Instructor podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.
Welcome to the Instructor podcast. As always, I am your host of Questionable Talent, Terry Cook, and I'm delighted to be here, but even more delighted that you have chosen to listen. Because today we're kicking off the first in a collection of episodes where I find out more about the associations, both the national and local variety. Now, today I'm joined by the president of the Approved Driving Instructor National Joint Council, Lynne Barrie. Now, Lynne speaks openly about who the ADINJC actually represent, what it is they do, and we dive into the current testing crisis, including if and how they challenge the DVSA. Plus, there's some very exciting news around the NJC joining PACTS, that's the Parliamentary Advisory Council for Transport Safety. And I'm really looking forward to talking to the associations all across the UK. So, if you're part of an association and would like to feature in this collection, then please reach out and get in touch. You can find the links in the show notes or head to www.theinstructorpodcast.com, which is also where you'll find the information on how to join the Instructor Premium membership, which currently has a week's free trial, giving you access to online training on a wide range of topics to help you become an even more awesome driving instructor. That's theinstructorpodcast.com. But for now, let's get stuck into the show. So today I'm delighted to be joined by the president of the ADINJC, Lynne Barrie. How are we doing, Lynne?
I'm fine, thanks, Terry. Are you okay?
I'm very good, thank you, very good. But I am really keen to ask you, because it really only comes to my mind when I say then the president of the NJC. What's the president's role? What do you do?
That's a very good question. Well, first of all, I was the chair for 13 years. I'm not actually very good on dates and number of years. In fact, when somebody asked me at one stage, I said I thought I'd been the chair for 9 years, and they pointed out it was 13. And I honestly felt then it was time for somebody new to come in and take over being the chair. And then shortly after that, I was asked if I'd be the president, which I've been now for 2 years. My actual role, if I look in our constitution, it lists all the roles of the people on the committee. And my role is actually to make sure that everybody on the committee is doing their job properly and do something about it if they're not, and to look after the people on the committee. So obviously, if you've got a committee of 18 people, which we have, and they're all voted on by our members, but if you've got a committee that is that big, there are bound to be issues within that committee, such as illness, etc. I mean, we have 2 people at the moment, unfortunately, in hospital having major operations. So my role, in a way, is to help the NJC carry on. And I'm sure people in the outside would know no difference whatsoever. But internally within that committee, there will be things that will be going on. So that basically is my role. It's the head of the NJC, but really the chair is the head. And I think my role was also to help the new chair come in and undertake their role as well.
I get the feeling, I get the impression that role suits you perfectly.
Does it? Oh, right. Okay. If you say so.
I think that's a good thing. But I do want to get into the ADINJC itself, and because I think there's a lot of misconceptions, I think there's some misunderstandings, and I think there's just some general people that don't necessarily know what you do and who you represent. So let me start off with this question. Who does the NJC represent? Is it the average ADI, the industry, or is it the members?
The ADI definitely represents its members. But having said that, because we are industry leaders, if you like, we tend to represent other people as well at times. And constantly we get phone calls from people who need help but aren't members. Unfortunately, we do only help members when we get to more serious items. We can answer quick questions, but when it gets to more serious items, you do have to be a member. So we represent our members.
I suppose on a bigger scale, when you're representing the members, you are representing the industry as a whole anyway. But could you give me like an example or two of where you might have helped some members in the past?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, for example, we constantly all the time get issues with members with their re-registration. Sometimes it's just basic, simple bits of information that they need to know and they don't know where to go to get it. And we always say, look, there's no such thing as a silly question. If you need to ask it, and people email in and they'll get answers virtually straight away, usually on the same day, or there's a phone number that they can ring up and ask. Then we get the more serious ones. A couple who've rung me recently, one person who actually wasn't a member, but this is typical, who has been prosecuted for using a mobile phone. This is an ADI, and now needs to have help with going to tribunal so that he can, because the registrar is trying to remove him from his job. That's the sort of thing. Now, just sometimes there are people who perhaps pupils have had grievances against them. Sometimes it can be quite small. Sometimes when you go into the background of this, the grievance will be said to be one thing. And actually, when you start to unravel it, which our current chair who deals with most of this now is excellent at doing as ex-police, when he unravels it, sometimes it's a grievance because somebody who hasn't taken them to a driving test or has refused to do that. So you have to unravel all these things, which takes time. Sometimes we write letters. We always check any letters that people send. We add extra bits to them. We make the letters as good as they can possibly be. Charles has had some absolutely brilliant results. And a few people, there was a case recently where the person said that if we hadn't stepped in and helped, the solicitor that he'd started to use was going to charge him £6,000. Now, one letter, another ADI said that one letter that a solicitor wanted to write on his behalf was going to cost £800 just for one letter. Now, that's the sort of thing that we are doing for people on quite a regular basis. And sometimes it's just a matter of talking to people on the phone. Other times it's helping them with the letters. Other times, and I've been to these as well when I was chair, it's representing people at an interview where they get interviewed by the DVSA because there has been a complaint and they are not aware, and this often seems unfair, but it's the way the process is. They're not aware until they get there who has made the complaint against them. So they can't really, unless they've thought about it before and come up with ideas. Often when you get there, it's somebody completely different. And sometimes ones I attended, the person making the complaint, it was sort of a couple of years before that had actually happened. So then you've got to go back through your diary and look at that. And hopefully you've got some notes and records or something in your head that reminds you of that person. But these are the sorts of things that we do. And then Charles will also attend tribunals if people need him to. Yeah. So that's the sort of work that we do. And ADIs, when it's like this, they panic, understandably, because they don't know what's going to happen. And very often, if I go along to a local association to talk, the last time I did that, there was a youngish ADI there who grabbed me at the coffee break and said a parent had made a complaint about her, and she was absolutely distraught about it. I don't think that ever went any further. She's a member, but I don't think it ever went any further, which was what I told her would probably happen. It's taught, it won't happen. But obviously she spent, nights of unrest and no sleep and was really worried about it. So in some respect, it's somebody to talk to and somebody to listen and somebody to help.
One of the things you said there was it happens almost regularly. And I just wonder how much, I use me as an example. I've never had a formal complaint, touch wood, yet, put against me. So therefore, I don't think of it much. I'm just kind of like, that'll almost, not that it'll never happen to me, but because it hasn't happened, I don't think about it. Do you think a lot of ADIs maybe don't sign up to associations such as yourself because they're not thinking that because it's never happened?
Oh, definitely. I've been an ADI for a long time. And in all that time, when I was fairly new as an ADI, I did have a parent who said they were going to complain about me. And it's not something that I would sort of want to go into on this, but I knew full well I'd done absolutely nothing wrong. I just had an irate parent. And I also knew that probably they'd threaten that that they were going to report me, but actually would do nothing about it because actually there was nothing really to report. So, I have had that happen. So I know it can. So I think it makes me more, well, it can happen to any of us actually. And you can be sailing along thinking that it will never happen to me, and it could. The one thing the DVSA will not deal with complaints-wise is any complaints about you wouldn't take my son, daughter to a driving test because they said they weren't ready and we wanted to go and do it. They will not look at anything like that. They are 100% on the side of the ADI or PDI. And we do have PDIs as members as well, because obviously there's a lot of issues with Part 2s and 3s and things at the moment. So that's more of the help that we're helping people with.
Well, I'm glad you said that about the test, actually, because I was going to query, because you mentioned before that there was a couple of cases where when you've got into the nitty-gritty of the complaint, it's actually been because they haven't taken them to test. But you're saying that the DVSA, if it boils down to you won't take them to a test, they're going to have our support rather than the students.
Oh, on that, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
They do have to, fraud and integrity do have to look at other cases. And I mean, unfortunately, I see both sides of this, and there are a lot of cases currently, particularly where ADIs are taking money for 10 lessons and then just disappearing, and no lessons are being given and they've never been seen again. Whether they were real ADIs or not, or PDIs, I don't know. But fraud and integrity would look at things like that. That's the sort of thing they can deal with. And complaints from the public is what's there for.
Yeah. I want to move on because I want to ask you a little bit about training and training and the ADINJC, because I think there's potential misconceptions or misunderstandings around this as well. Is the ADINJC a training organisation?
No, it's an association for driving instructors and potential driving instructors that also does training, but we don't run that separately. It's all run in the same way. So we do have a team of trainers. I'm on the training team, and we do Zoom workshops. We do some free workshops. We also do some around the country. Since COVID, we've not done so many face-to-face ones, but we do go out, and if a local association wants us to go out, then we'll go. Tom, who is our head of training, went down to the Cornwall group most recently. So he went down and did a day there for them because they'd asked him to. So yes, obviously then if Tom's lost a whole day off what his work would be, we pay him to do that from some of the money that comes in from the ticket sales. But we're not here just as a training establishment. That to me is quite a small part of what we do, but it is something that we do because I think it's important, because to me, what we need to do is help people get better. We want quality instructors. We want quality PDIs that are going to pass their Part 2s and 3s. And if we can help them do that with training and they want to attend that, then, I personally, I've never had a problem with the fact that we do training, but we're not just a training body. No way. I mean, we don't do anywhere near anything every month even necessarily.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Part 2 and Part 3. I definitely want to come on to those later, but you've obviously got the training side, like you just mentioned. You've got the representing ADIs, as we spoke about there. You've also got the news aspect, where you're keeping up to date with all the latest information and stuff. Is there any other role that the NJC plays?
Yes, I mean, we help and represent people like we talked about before. We do the training. We do send out information. So currently we have a monthly newsletter. We also have our news flashes that Sue Duncan, our secretary, sends out. That's not just from the DVSA, it's from all sorts of bodies or places. And it's also it will tell people about our training, but also about things like the very big industry conference and expo that we run with Intelligent Instructor, or the convention that we run yearly now, which is more of a paid event, but quite a large event. So we do send out information and help to keep people updated as far as we can. Currently, we're in the process of making a new website, which should be ready in September. And there will be blog posts on there and other ways of keeping people up to date there as well. So really protection, information, we represent people, And yes, we do training as well.
Well, in terms of representation then, because I think we touched on it before, that as much as you represent your members, I think that reflects on the whole industry. And I know that we've recently had a new Transport Minister, Louise Hay, who was from my area around Yorkshire, and you sent quite an interesting letter, I think, that when she joined. So I think my first question, has she responded? Has Louise responded to your letter?
No, but I don't think I'm alone in not having responded to my letter, because I look, for example, at other places where I can see they've sent letters, PACTS being one of them, because NJC are just about to join PACTS. That was agreed at a governing committee meeting this weekend. So PACTS, Parliamentary Advisory Council for Transport Safety. Now, the reason we want to join them is because we very much agree with their road safety manifesto, which had 4 very significant points in it. And I can see they've written to Louise Haigh as well. And we did tell them that we've written, and my letter also included them in it because we would like to sort of join forces. It makes it more powerful if we do that. But I notice on their website, and they update it really regularly, there's no response. I'm sure once the letter received back comes back, we will know. But we've had nothing back yet. Because we hadn't had anything back, Terry, we also wrote to another member of the cabinet, Lillian Greenwood, and also I wrote to my local MP because that's changed since the election. The area I live in used to be Conservative for many, many years. It's now Labour. And I've written to him to say, I'm in your constituency. Can you help me get this letter to the minister, please? How do I go about it? Because it's proving really difficult. And all I got back from that, which was 2 weeks ago, is that due to the fact he's new in the role and there are a lot of emails coming through from constituents, it will take time for him to get round and answer them. So I feel like I'm on a bit of a loop here at the moment, but anybody that knows me knows I don't give up. So I'll carry on until we get a response. I do know that the CEO of DVSA, Loveday Ryder, has spoken with Louise Haigh. So there's obviously been contact with the DVSA.
I mean, the amount of problems that she's got to solve, I can imagine why she's like, well, we'll leave that for a bit. But this is where you said something there that genuinely excited me a little bit. The fact that the NJC are joining PACTS. The whole road safety thing, anyone that's listening knows that this is my thing at the minute. And how's that come about? What's that going to entail? Why are you joining PACTS? All those questions I'm asked in an excited voice there. Answer that for me.
Okay. Well, we were going to join a few years back, but I think it's not free to join, and there is a commitment of attending meetings and things like that. And at the time, a few years back, we really didn't feel we could do that and commit to it. But I honestly believe now that we do need to put voices together. And because we agree with the 4 things that they particularly want to do, that's, I think, is what really pushed it. And I think we do need to be seen to join with something like PACTS. And we have our own road safety advisor in Graham Feast, and he does quite powerful work in the industry on road safety. So, I mean, he would be really useful to us there as well. But we can afford to do that now. And the members of the committee that run the NJC felt that now's the time to actually join. And we put our name towards the Road Safety Manifesto. We did that some time back.
Honestly, that's one of the best things I've heard in quite a while. That's genuinely got me feeling positive again about this industry. Just that little comment, I think that's really cool. And for those that don't know, you mentioned the Road Safety Manifesto. The 4 key things in there: you've got the graduated driving licensing, developing a national road safety strategy, establishing a road safety investigation branch, and adopting the latest vehicle safety regulations. And I would say that at least 3 of them would feel like a given. The graduated driving license is the one that is up for debate, even though I do support it. So I love the fact that you guys embrace it. And I'll just touch on that briefly. When I was looking through that a little while ago, what struck me as just really lovely to see was 3 logos. So it was the ADINJC logo on there, there was the My Drive Time logo on there, and there was the Instructor podcast logo on there. And I just thought, how great is it that you've got sort of people from our industry in this vicinity with these other people championing this road. How cool is that we're in that position now that we haven't always been in?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's exciting times and we need to make the most of it from this point onwards, really. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's amazing to think that we in this country hadn't actually got a road safety strategy, of what exactly was going to be done in the country. So, just the fact that that's in this manifesto. And as for graduated licensing, I think the issue with that is we need to be in there when the talks are taking place because it affects us as driving instructors. So we don't just want road safety professionals talking about it unless they've got input from our side of the community as well, which I think is what we need to get.
Yeah.
Because it affects us so much and we don't know enough about it. If somebody says to you, do you agree with graduated licensing? Well, what does that mean? I mean, I think that the NJC will back that, but we don't know yet what that means. We don't know exactly how it would be graduated. All that needs a lot of discussion, but at least let's get discussions started.
And what you're doing is you're getting a seat at that table now. And I think this is the issue because I spoke to Crystal Owen recently, who was the mother of the kid, the mother of the son that died last year in a car crash, and she started the big petition that was going on, and she was really upset because she'd reached out to some driving instructors for some help, and they'd just fobbed her off, not necessarily like in an intentionally rude manner, but they're just like, this isn't going to help me, I'm not helping you, sort of thing. And we've been in some communication since and stuff, and she looks back now and there's a few things in that petition says she wish she hadn't put on because it's deterring people from agreeing with it. I think that we or you get that seat at that table, you can have those conversations with those people and put the opinion across from the people who are going to be delivering this stuff, i.e. driving instructors. So I think that's a great position to be in, I really do.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I think it's a great position as well. We're never going to please everybody all the time. We're never going to please all our members all the time, in as much as their opinions and views, because they're all so varied within the industry. But what you have to remember is that NJC is made up of a committee of people, currently 18 of us, who are voted in at the AGM by the members and by the groups. So we then take on board making the decisions and have the meetings and hold meetings, etc., where decisions get made. And of course, we can also send out surveys and when we have our meetings, get people's opinions. But it's very clear, even at meetings, it gets very heated at times when we start talking about things like this. I mean, I made made a decision and helped something happen recently, and then the other side of the story came back and said, well, why did you do that? And I can tell you what that was. It's audit, which of course has disappeared really at the moment. There's no audit inspections taking place. So a lot of people who are waiting to get on the audit register had said to me, it's really unfair, Lynne, that at the end of a part 2 or part 3, when people fail, they're being told to get a recommended audit instructor, because we can't get to be audit instructors. It's just not fair. So this was brought up at a meeting with DVSA, and straight away, actually, they said, no, we will go back and have a think about that. And they've removed that now. So now people are not told to get an audit instructor. The examiners have been told not to say that currently. But then I got some audit instructors who said to me, but Lynne, that's not fair, because we've actually paid to be audit instructors. We are audit instructors, and now you've stopped them saying that. So you can't win everything. You can only do your best.
Right. Okay. So I think I want to touch on here that you mentioned, obviously, potentially joining a PACTS. You mentioned what you just said about bringing audits to the DVSA and saying, can you stop doing this? Well, now, that's the first I've heard of those things. And that could be because I've missed that going out somewhere. So I
I can
think
see
that
where it went out, Terry. It was so when these meetings take place and they're part of NASP meetings, because NJC don't meet separately with the DVSA. I mean, obviously we have some conversations by email, but usually when we have meetings, it will be through NASP, which is us joining with the MSA GB, the DIA and the NJC, and the meetings we have. After that, a report comes out, and it was in one of those reports that was happening. So you've missed it, Terry, I'm afraid.
so. If I've missed that, which clearly I have, and that's come through as an email, for example, I'll go on the website and check it out. But I've obviously missed that, and I think, in my opinion, that's where the associations and NASP as a whole can do better in terms of communication. Because something like these, I think, are significant piece of information, and I don't think should just be relied on sent as an email. That's the sort of thing, in my opinion, at least, should be blathered all over social media as well, where it can then get shared by the likes of me who can go, oh, this is great. I'm going to ask you on to talk about this, or I'm going to share this in my social channel so it gets seen by a wider number. Do you think that the NJC in particular can do a better job of communicating in that way?
Yeah, we always take on board what people are saying to us. So I do take that on board. Hopefully with the new website, that could become part of a sort of a blog that comes out on there. It's difficult to reach absolutely everybody with it, and we're always open to suggestions and ideas. But yeah, social media's obviously got to be a place for that too. Also, I do think that at the expo last year, that was, or actually it might have been the convention, that was brought up by the DVSA when they were there. But yeah, it's difficult to reach everybody, but we're here to listen and take that on board, and we'll think of some ways that the really important news can get out, other than maybe just being a report from NASP. It's how we get that out that's important.
And look, I appreciate that it needs to go to your members first. That's like you said, that's who you're presenting, the people that are paying you. But where it impacts the industry, I mean, you don't have to answer this, but for me, you've got people such as myself, you've got other people that run similar sort of channels, or you've got organizations such as the DITC. We use a lot of acronyms today. I should stop using as many acronyms. But so that you could send that information out to then share further, because I think that part of the problem we have is that members of the NGSC, people that turn up to the expo, they're the people that are interested anyway. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's maybe about 20% in the industry at the most. So we need to reach over 80 as well. So the more avenues we can get to share it, but I don't want to beat that drum too much. I mean,
I'm happy to answer that, Terry. I know that some of those other organisations will have seen that, because they will have picked it up from the NASP report and would have been looking for that to share with their members. But I do agree, the more we can share the important points, the better. It's sad that we haven't got the rest of the industry on board, and that there's so many people out there that just aren't part of any association at all. And then when they ring up and desperately need help, we only help members, because that's all we can afford to do. I mean, we can't possibly help. I don't know what the numbers are at the moment, but 42,000 or something like that. We can't help that many people unless those people are members.
It's almost like your car insurance. I begrudge paying it every month, but if I ever need it, I'll be very, very grateful. And it's same with you guys. I don't begrudge paying you. I shouldn't have said that, but it's same with you guys. You know, hopefully I'll never need you, but you're there if I do. We'll be back with more from Lynne in just a moment, including talk of challenging the DVSA. But I want to give a quick shout out to some of the latest sign-ups to the Instructor Premium membership, and they are Adrian Armstrong, Chris, Simon, Dylan Evans, Rob Coolin, and Marisa Phillips. Now, if you'd like to upgrade your personal and professional driving instructor development, there's currently a free trial for an entire week, so you can sign up, get access to some of the best video and audio training around, and if you decide it's not for you, well, you can leave with no hard feelings and without spending a penny. Premium members also get some pretty cool discounts, including with today's guests at ADINJC, as well as some top industry trainers such as Bob Morn, Lynne Barrie and San Harper. So if you want to improve your coaching, develop your mindset, or learn more about the standards check, head to www.theinstructorpodcast.com or use a link in the show notes. But for now, let's get stuck back into the show. I do want to bring it back to that letter, because we touched on a couple of things then, and I thought the letter you sent to Louise was really good. I thought it was articulate, and I felt like it was damning in the right places as well. So the points you were referring to, the driving test waiting times, the driving test black market, the Part 2 and Part 3 waiting times, the standards check waiting times, or fiasco, should I say, the audit troubles, the new legislation you'd like to see in the qualifying process, the cost of the theory and practical tests, and the concerns about examiners leaving. So, not much going on that they've got to sort. But I think from your perspective, is there a priority there, do you think? Or are they all as bad as each other?
I think there's two priorities there, really. The main priority for driving instructors, I feel, has got to be the waiting times for driving tests, because not only is it those candidates that, a lot of them are not just doing it because they fancy learning to drive. Some of them are doing it to help with their education or to help them when they need a job. So to have to wait so long in months to get a test is just unfair. But then it creates a horrible stress situation for driving instructors. I've talked to driving instructors who would have stayed on board another few years, but have said, I've had enough, Lynne, I'm retiring. So, I'm leaving the association, not because I want to, you've done a great job, but I'm retiring, I'm getting out of this. I can't stand it any longer. It is really stressful when you've got parents saying, but just let them have a go, or they need to do this test. We can't get another cancellation. And there's a sort of culture, if you like, of people booking tests before they've even started. They've literally just passed a theory. They've not had any lessons yet, but they've got a test book. So you've got thousands and thousands of people sitting in that group of tests being wanted that don't even need one. And that actually, to me, is a culture we've got to almost get rid of. And we did talk about that with DVSA at one stage, but it's not one of the actions that's really been taken up. But I think it's an important point, because one thing that has been taken up by DVSA is the fact that there were people sitting there just totally cancelling lots and lots of times, hundreds of times, literally, a test. So just keep putting it back and back and back. So now a lot of those accounts where there have been bookings that have just kept being moved have actually been suspended or withdrawn and removed altogether. And there were some that weren't even linked to ADIs, and they've definitely been removed. So that's all good work. But I do think we've got to stop this. The country as a whole seems to know that it's going to take a long time to get the driving test. Therefore, they're trying to get it before they're anywhere near ready.
Is there anything that the NJC can be doing, or is there anything that you are doing, perhaps, to help the test situation?
Well, the thing is, we know what needs to be done, and we constantly have these meetings. Although, of course, when there was the election, pre-election, during what's called PERDA, we're not allowed to, communicate with the DVSA. We can't hold meetings with them. So all that came to a standstill while the election was going on. And we've now got meetings planned in September. And then there will be a big face-to-face one in November. The dates are already in the diary now. But we know what needs to happen. So let me go through what needs to happen. We need more examiners. We need examiners that can be paid more and are satisfied with their job. Because I've just said it's stressful for driving instructors, but I often put myself in the shoes of the examiners. I would not like to do their job. That must be quite stressful, because I think you've got stressed candidates who then, when they fail, know that they've got to wait another probably 4 months or so, more in some areas, to get another test at all, which makes for stressed examiners. No wonder they've had to wear body cams, because, they are getting abuse. So it needs the examiners to be more satisfied. We're hemorrhaging examiners faster than they're coming in. and being trained, is my understanding. So you're getting a lot retiring early or leaving. And with all due respect, it was probably an aging workforce at the beginning anyway. There are a lot younger ones coming in now. But so there were a lot that were retiring. So we need to get them paid more, but that's a government thing, isn't it? That's up to the unions and the government. The NJC can't actually do anything about that except say, well, yeah, we would support the fact that the examiners do need to be better paid and their contracts need to be better. But that's really between government, DVSA and the examiners. We need more test slots. So we need to have them probably at different times of the day so that if a license number can be read at a different time of day where it doesn't have to be read in daylight as such, we could have some going on slightly later, especially in winter months when the clocks go back, or more over weekends, more over bank holidays. I mean, they have put extra tests in, but clearly we could still be doing more. We've mentioned the culture of, I'm going to book it now, even though I've not started my driving lessons. I do think that needs to stop. The booking, the booking sites and the bots, which are sort of scooping up all the cancellations and taking them away. I still think that there's more that can be done with that. I know DVSA have been working and stopping some of those, but as fast as they stop them, more spring up. But I do think that's an area that's got to be looked into more. And actually, it's not illegal for somebody, strange though this sounds, to charge a fee for a driving test. So even an ADI could say, yeah, I can get you a test at £300. And it's not illegal to do that because you are charging £62 plus you're charging for your time to do it. I mean, I think it's absolutely dreadful. I would never do something like that with a candidate, but it actually isn't illegal. So DVSA cannot say to ADIs it's illegal to do that. And so there are ways of getting theory tests and of getting practical tests. I mean, it was raised at one point, is it fit and proper for an ADI to be doing that? But, that could raise a lot of people who probably do book tests for pupils and charge extra for doing it. But I mean, I've heard as much as £300 or more to get a driving test. And when I've said to candidates, some of my PDIs who've got pupils, how do you get your pupils to the test? They say, oh, there's no problem. There's a lady that gets those for us and she gets them all. And that's at inflated prices. But this is what's so wrong. So the problem is political. Legislation has a lot to answer for. The last government would not change legislation. It said, it was not going to come in and do a whole raft of changes. Hopefully this government will, because there are bits of legislation, particularly with the training of instructors, that do need to be changed. And because they haven't been able to be changed, we're sitting with all that in a very sort of old-fashioned, uncomfortable way at the moment. That certainly legislation will need to come in with some major changes. And also sort of constraints on how DVSA are actually allowed to operate. I mean, somebody made a comment recently at me and said, oh, well, yes, you're in with the DVSA. I'm not in with the DVSA. I don't work for the DVSA. I just happen to be a person in a position that goes to meetings with DVSA. So yes, I can get contact with them and ask questions and things, but I am not in with the DVSA. And sometimes when I do talks, I have to remind people I'm not the DVSA. So yes, we would like to do a lot more. What we do is hold meetings with them. We liaise with them. We write letters, these sorts of things. If anybody can come up with other sensible suggestions of what else we can do, then come up with them.
Just the NJC and DVSA BFFs. That's the title for the show, I think. All the stuff you've said there that we need to change, I think they're the basics. That's what needs doing. And I'm going to ask you to speculate slightly, though. Do you think it'll happen? Is there a time frame? Do you think it may happen, or is it just wait and see?
Oh, I personally can't give a time frame, because I know sometimes when DVSA say, yes, we are going to do this, and with all good intention they are, but then they get held up in legislation. So it's never quick. These wheels don't move quickly with some of this. But I mean, something has to change with the driving test. We have to get back to where we used to be before COVID, which was around 6 weeks, wasn't it? Now we're looking at a national average of more like 3.5, 4 months from what I was reading recently. And that's a national average. So there are some places where you can't get one for 6 months or possibly even more. So that has to change. That cannot be allowed to keep continuing. I think we're reaching a peak now. I think I was hoping that the 6 months where the CEO took the warrant holders and put them all onto the learner tests would have a big effect, because that was 150,000 tests. Now, that's all gone by now. And unfortunately, although it seemed at the beginning to have had an effect, it's creeping back up again from what I can see. So that's not good. But what we can't afford to happen, in my opinion, is to take everybody off again and put them all on tests, because it had the most awful effect and knock-on effect on part 2 and 3 tests. And you cannot forget those people just because in the news it's more important to the public that their child gets a driving test. People taking part 2s and 3s have spent thousands and thousands on training, and some of them never make it as a driving instructor. So they've spent so much money on it. It's so unfair, and the stress on them is unbelievable. It's actually been, in the last few years, really quite hard to be an instructor trainer. And that is something that, as Lynne Barrie instructor trainer, I did write to Loveday, CEO at DVSA, about the effect on my personal job. Because obviously standards checks, which was most of what I used to do, I used to love helping people with their standards checks, whether it was the first one they were doing or one that they'd had to redo. Used to really get satisfaction out of helping people with that. But all that work disappeared. I used to still do write books for the industry, but again, they're on the standards check. Well, there are no standards checks, so nobody's going to be buying a book at the moment, are they? So it had a huge effect. I had to rethink what I was going to do, which was fine. I'm flexible. So I've done a lot of training with part 3 again and really enjoyed it. But it does have a knock-on effect on all sorts of people. And it's really important that we get the part 2s and 3s and audit underway again.
Yours was actually one of the books I read coming up to my standards check back in 2019, I think it was. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, well, that's good to know. It's been updated since then, but yeah.
Well, I lost it in my move, so I need to get a new one actually to reread. But I think there's a balance here as well, like with the part 3 tests and with the L tests. I think they've got to get that right, because if you unplug the L test and all those start going, but then there's then got a load of driving instructors and the L tests are going down, or they do it the other way, and then there's too many. I think that's a difficult balance. And also, I do try and be really fair when I'm talking about people, and to be fair, organisations as well. But I think Graham O'Brien, the Chief Assistant Driving Examiner, came on in 2022, came on the podcast and said, by February of 2023, you will have this down to 10 weeks. So clearly the intention is there, and they were putting steps in process. I don't know. I find that, in fact, I think this ties into my next question, because I don't think it's the people at the DVSA. I think it's the DVSA that are causing a lot of this problem, and the government, as you said. You mentioned before about the way people are booking tests and stuff, and the DVSA aren't necessarily responding to that. But for 3 years now, they've been saying that the problem is the way the booking habits are changing. Well, that can't be a problem, because they're not changing. They changed in 2020. So this has been the way people have booked for 4 years. Nothing has changed in that time. This is how people book tests now. And I also wanted to ask you a little bit about this, actually, because the DVSA seem to have started a bit of a kicking up their campaign around telling driving instructors not to suggest that the students use the app apps and stuff like that. And I've seen the NJC sharing that. So it implies that an organisation, you back that. Is there a problem with a student booking a test in January and then getting one of the apps and using the app to move it to November, and then so that they're ready in November, so for when they're ready? Is there a problem with students doing that?
Only in as much as if everybody is doing that, then you've got people with dates that they don't really need at that point in time. I mean, logistically, I don't know what the answer is to this. I'm going to be honest. This started because of COVID, but I mean, COVID is well and truly, well, it's not over, it's still around, but it's not, we haven't had to stop teaching and stop testing, which is what caused this. So that can no longer be the reason. So there has to be some more discussions and talks and things have to get changed here. And hopefully that's what the DVSA will do with the government. I mean, the other way of doing this is to take testing out and privatise it and give it to somebody else altogether.
Yeah, potentially. But, we spoke about the DVSA there, and one of the questions that I see a lot online on the magical place that is Facebook, and also people will say to me, is why aren't the ADINJC or NASP, I suppose, challenging the DVSA more? So,
well, we do challenge the DVSA. It's just that I guess you don't see it. We do challenge them in the meetings. We do challenge them. I don't think any of us at NASP are the sort of people that are just going to sit there and say nothing, or we wouldn't be in the positions we're in. So, of course, we challenge them, but we also want to do it in a way where we can work with them to come up with some solutions. And there are some things where we can do that, but the booking times and the test backlog, it's beyond my comprehension now. Other than what I've said to you, needs to be done. I really don't know where they're going to go next with it, but I hope they come up with some more radical ideas, because they have to. This cannot be allowed to carry on like this. So there's going to have to be some more radical thinking here of what happens.
would it be fair to say as well that you can challenge the DVSA, you can question the DVSA, you can bring suggestions and ideas and solution-focused, problems to the DVSA, but it's completely up to them whether they do anything about it or not?
Yes, of course it is. It's up to them whether then they'll listen, whether they then take that on board and do it, is another matter. But at least we're there and we're around the table, and we are the people that the stakeholders that they do talk to. We need to be in there somewhere, in my opinion. So it's good that we can do that. And so it's not fair to say we don't challenge them. People don't see that. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not going to hold some sort of Zoom where I'm to be challenging the CEO at DVSA. What does that achieve? I can, we do that in meetings anyway. And then the minutes are taken, and then a report is made from those minutes, and it's the report that goes out.
I'm debating whether to mention this one, but I see it mentioned a lot, so I'm gonna give you a right of reply, if you like. Unions. Every now and again I'll see someone on Facebook kicking off and saying that all the associations are rubbish, you've got no teeth, let's all form a union, then we can go on strike. I'm just gonna let you respond to that comment, Lynne.
I think there is a union, isn't there? There always was a union. At one time they were part of NASP until we all fell out. So as a teacher in a former life before this, I was part of a union because that was what you had to join. There were no associations as such. There were only unions. I think there is still a union, but obviously they're not very powerful then, are they? If I don't know that much about them and other people don't, then something's going wrong there along the lines. But I don't think you have to have necessarily a union to do what we need to do. I think we can do what we need to do quite successfully, without being a union as such. That's my opinion. I've been part of a union. You know, in many ways, it's very similar. To be fair.
Yeah, I've been part of a union in a previous life, but I just have this vision of driving instructors striking and everyone else just shrugging their shoulders and going, "All right, whatever."
So we're self-employed. How does
Yeah.
that work? How's anybody going to look after themselves if we all go on strike? I mean, that's like, we need to have reasoned debates and discussions and come up with some solutions. And that's what we need to do. Us going on strike doesn't help anybody, does it?
No, I mean, look, it'd be completely different when the examiners do it. That has an impact towards the end goal of their pay and stuff. But regarding our pay, we're in charge of it. Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. I just felt like it was worth mentioning. I'm possibly regretting it already. But I do want to finish off by asking you, we kind of touched on it before, but we have got the expo coming up. Is it the 30th of September, 29th of September?
That's right. It's a Sunday. It's the final Sunday in September this year. Yeah.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit? Anyone that's on the fence about going, do you want to try and take a minute to persuade them?
Yeah, well, it's an what we call an expo and conference. We join forces with Intelligence Instructor because obviously at NJC we are working driving instructors, so we have a job to do as well. So it's a massive undertaking to organise and arrange the expo and conference. I mean, when you consider there's over 50 exhibitors there, there's I think there's 4 different areas where we're doing talks. There's a PDI zone that PDIs can go into. We've got a live stage, which we're staging in a different area this time. We had over 900 there last year. It's the biggest one I've ever seen in this industry, and I've been in the industry a long time now. I think we should get more than 1,000 this year. I'm pretty confident about that. So we've got the trade stands, we've got the talks going on. It's your chance to sort of get to know other people there. Most people now seem to come and almost make a day of it and stop the day. I mean, there's a canteen there, there's food there, there's food trucks outside. It's at Newark Showground, so if you know that at all, you'll know the size of it. So it's a huge area. And I mean, it's catered for whether it's wet or it isn't. But to date, we have never had a conference really in the rain. So fingers crossed this one will be as good, because it's nice when people can go outside and they can chat and they can have lunch and all sorts of things. So it's running from, I think it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I think registration starts earlier. And then it finishes about 4:30. The DVSA will be there as one of the speakers. Loveday Ryder is there, the CEO, but there are some other DVSA members. And they have a stand there as well, and they'll be there through the day so that you can ask questions. So there's your opportunity to put questions to them and pose questions. So to me, it's just a free day of continuous development for yourself. You'll learn a lot about the industry, and there's lots of things there for sale or just to look at or try and understand, and things that you've probably never seen before. So there's an exhibition area outside with the electric vehicles. There's also a bigger area still this year where I think we're going to have 2 large HGVs that people can actually have a go in and see. It's really interesting to see things like the view from the cab and the blind spots and all that sort of thing. So there's a lot there. There is a website which will tell you all about it, or you can go to it from the NJC website. And we're sending out lots of information about it. But as you said, there are 43,000 instructors. We're hoping to get 1,000. I mean, I don't think we could cope with 43,000, but that's big. But then there's all those people that don't come or don't know about it, even probably don't know about it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and which is a shame. But I want to just touch on one point, because I know one of the sort of the concerns from last year was the queuing for registration, but I know this time they've got more places where you can get in, so there's hopefully going to be less queuing. So do you think that's going to be better this year?
I hope so, because we have to take feedback on board. And I do remember last year, looking out from the the main doors and the sea of cars that was there. It was absolutely flabbergasted. I couldn't believe how many cars were there. And my husband, who helps on the day, was at the end of the queue of all the ADIs, chatting away to them, giving out the free bags and things. And I was thinking, this is going to take forever. This time there will be different areas that you can register. There will be more machines. There are more people doing that. So as far as we can, without it costing us an awful lot, because there are ways that possibly we could get machines that would do this for us. We've looked into this, but they're really expensive. And I think we'll try it this way. We'll just have different areas, more machines, the way we do it. And we'll see if we can get it better. Each time it's a learning curve and we have to take things on board. The live stage, which was quite noisy last time, is in a totally different area. So not far away, but it is in a different area. So that shouldn't be an issue.
Cool. Well, I'm going to put you in this position again. So someone is on the fence and they're thinking, I want to sign up to an association. They're not a member of any. Why should they choose the NJC?
I think people say we're a friendly association. We care about people. We look after our members. We're always on the end of a phone. You can get information from us, but there's lots of opportunities within the NJC. And of course, if you're a member, then you get to do those at a lower price as well. But I wouldn't want to be an ADI out there that hadn't got some sort of protection if I needed it. Don't bury your head in the sand, think it'll never happen to you, because sadly, one day it could and you'll need help. So obviously I would join the NJC, but basically join an association.
Is there anything else you want to touch on today, Lynne?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for the opportunity of talking to you, Terry. It's always fascinating.
Always a pleasure speaking to you. And all the stuff we've spoken about today, links for that will be in the show notes. But yeah, big thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Terry.
The Instructor podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.